morning, esteemed speakers, guests, and participants. Welcome to the special guest lecture on international business and economics, titled The Current Economic Challenges for the European Union, held by Atma Jaya Catholic University of Indonesia in collaboration with University of Pelita Harapan. I am Krista Angelica, a business administration student here at Atma Jaya, and I am your MC today. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for joining this lecture. I hope that this can be an insightful and valuable experience for you, and ultimately you can apply the new knowledge to your studies and careers. Secondly, I would like to remind you all of the rules of this lecture. Number one, please turn off your webcam and mute your audio during the presentation. Number two, if you have any questions, please write them down in the chat. The moderator will choose the questions and invite you to read your question later during the Q&A session. You can ask your questions in English or Indonesian. Number three, if you are willing to turn on your webcam during the discussion, please dress and behave properly. Number four, make sure you have a stable internet connection. Now to the next slide, please. Okay. Now, this is the rundown of today's lecture. We will begin with the opening remarks from Dr. Agung Nugroho, my introduction of our moderator, the introduction of our speaker, the presentation by our speaker, the Q&A sessions, and the closing of our lecture. Lastly, to begin this lecture, I would like to invite Dr. Agung Nugroho as the head of Master of Business Administration Department to give his opening remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us in this virtual guest lecture today. A news notification popped up on my smartphone last night. It was a short message like this. European leaders have warmly congratulated Democrat Joe Biden following his projected election win. A victory that comes after 4 years of fractious relations with President Donald Trump. Then many questions came up to my mind. What does Biden or the US mean to the European Union? Will the new president of the United States have major impact on the European Union? And further questions will arise. This is a very interesting and hot topic, isn't it? I believe Dr. Patrick will be excited to discuss this too. But unfortunately, we don't talk about this issue today. However, we will take a deeper look at the economic challenges facing the European Union. The European Union is a unique supranational political and economic system that has brought economic progress to its 27 member states through its common market. In recent years, however, its political and economic difficulties have increased. The debt crisis in Greece, which is connected to the common currency euro, the Brexit, the refugee crisis, and in 2020, also the economic crisis related to the COVID-19 pandemic. First, Dr. Patrick Ziegenhain will present the historical background of Europe, its culture, language, politics, and so on. And he will also explain the principles of common market and the EU's economic and monetary union in his lecture. He will then outline and compare the economic developments of the member states before he talks about the current economic challenges and prospects facing the European Union. This special guest lecture is targeted to students of international relations, business administrations, and as well as the general public. Hopefully, this lecture could enrich your knowledge and make your academic journey more interesting and lively. Thank you very much and have a productive discussion today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Agung Nugroho, for the wonderful remarks. Next, I would like to introduce you all to our moderator for today. Our moderator for today is Mr. Ruli Mangunsong, MA. He has degrees in general business, finance, management, and international studies with minors in marketing and music merchandising, along with marketing and decision science from the University of Oregon, USA. He is currently a senior lecturer and a faculty member in the International Relations Department at University of Pelita Harapan. He is also a director of operations at Vanilla Mango Entertainment Productions and Jazz Jakarta Productions. Additionally, he is a deputy general manager at Presindo CMO. With his expertise, he will be moderating our discussion and Q&A session for today. Without further ado, let's begin today's lecture and welcome Mr. Willy Mangonsong to introduce our speaker for today. Sir, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, all. Good morning, students. And I would like to welcome Dr. Patrick as our guest lecturer for today. And I would like to introduce Dr. Patrick Ziegenhain. He's from Germany. He's currently associate professor at the Department of International Relations at President University in Cikarang since September 2019, since last year. And he's also a visiting professor at the Department of Business Administration at Atma Jaya University in Jakarta since August 2018. So that's 2 years ago. Previously, he had been a visiting professor at the Asian Europe Institute of University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, 2016 up to 2018. He was an interim professor at the Department of Southeast Asian Studies at Goethe University, Frankfurt, Germany, 2015. He was a visiting professor at De La Salle University in Manila, the Philippines, in 2014. And he was assistant professor, akademischer Rat, at the Department of Political Science at the University of Trier in Germany, 2007 up to 2014. His main area of research are economics, political and social developments in Southeast Asia and Europe, as well as international relations in both regions. So without further more time, I would like to introduce Dr. Patrick, and he will give his presentation about the current topic right now is European Union. Okay. Time is yours, Patrick.
Yeah, selamat pagi semuanya. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for the kind invitation to give a talk here at Universitas Atma Jaya and as well as UPH. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you also, Pak Agung, for the nice words of introduction. You mentioned the US-European relations, and of course they will be a bit different with the new president in January, Joe Biden. Of course, it's not part of my presentation. Maybe let me just add a few comments on that. Of course, Joe Biden's program is more in line with that of the Europeans. I think in Europe, 90% of the citizens would have voted for Biden. And also the governments, I think only one, that's Slovenia, which I'm not so expert on. The Slovenian president, he congratulated Trump for his re-election, yeah? But the others kept silent. They are not so happy about Trump, yeah? Okay, but there are obvious reasons because Joe Biden is also supporting free trade between Europe and US. He's a supporter of multilateralism, meaning there is international organizations like the World Health Organization or the World Trade Organization. Joe Biden believes in that, as do the Europeans, and also some other in terms of immigration. And Joe Biden is much closer to the Europeans than Donald Trump, so that Europe is quite happy about the in general about the vote in America. Okay, Paruli, thank you also for introducing my, let's say academic CV. Maybe let me explain a bit. Also a few words. I was, how to say, until 2014, more occupied in Europe as a academic, but I also have been very often in Southeast Asia. And also, if you see my publications before 2014, mostly about Southeast Asia. And so it's not accidentally I'm here in this region, but because it's also my field of research and I like to be here, particularly in Indonesia. Yeah, that's always good. So, okay, now let's come to the topic today. Enough of introduction. I will talk about the economic challenges of the European Union. And as you will see, the economic challenges are often related to politics. In reality, I think it's not so easy to distinguish between politics and economics in many fields, but I will try to focus on the economic issues and not so much on the political issues. Now, let me start my presentation. Yeah, so club full screen. So I hope everybody can see it.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can also see my cursor, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then let's start with the introduction. First of all, the overview. We see European Union is still one of the most economically successful regions in the world. It's a high standard of living in general compared to other regions. But however, many people, particularly in Southeast Asia, do not see this. Europe also has a lot of economic problems. It's not only that developing countries have economic crises and problems, but also well-established economies like the European Union. I will tell about a few of them, and I will also talk about the reactions of the European Union and its member states, and also give some comments if I think this reaction was adequate or good or bad or whatever. So I will comment a bit, not only describe, but also analyze these reactions. So as I said, I will start with a more general overview. Europe, what is Europe? A little bit of history, culture, economic differences, and so on. Then come to the European Union, with its economic system, single market, monetary union. Maybe I also forget to mention that I also did an internship in the European Union. That's already more than 20 years ago, but I worked in the European Parliament for a member of parliament and get really first-hand insights in European politics and how this is made, and took part in some sessions of European institutions. So I can tell you from first-hand experience with this. Okay, about the economic challenges, which I will talk to you, I choose four. There are some more, but I choose four, which I think are still the most important one. One is the Euroscepticism, meaning among citizens, they are more critical towards the European Union in previous years, and this culminated in the Brexit, in the exit of the of UK from the European Union with a referendum in 2016, which became effective now in the year 2020. So that's one issue, which has also serious economic consequences for the European Union. The second one is the currency crisis. Yeah, it's a bit older. It started already in 2012 with the debt crisis in Greece, but continues until now with the common currency, the euro. The second one, I would say it started in 2015, mass migration, refugee issues, which is what you can say political problem, but also has economic effects. And of course, the most recent one, the COVID-19 pandemic, which is also, of course, a worldwide phenomenon, but also visible in Europe. And I will talk a bit about the European reactions to that and then make a conclusion. So let me start with the more general overview of Europe. Later, you can ask me also a lot of questions. I cannot go into all details, of course, but if you want to know something more in detail, please ask me. So we start with a map of Europe. So I think it's always good to see this visible, that Europe is a continent with many countries, with not one big country, but with many small countries, we can say. Yeah. If you put a map of Indonesia over this, you would say Indonesia coming from Portugal to Moscow, from west to east, is all Indonesia. It's about 5,000 kilometers. Yeah. So Europe is not so big continent, but it's quite populated. It has more than 500 million people living there, and it's very diverse, we can say. Here you see a map already, more than 40 or 50, around 40 to 50 countries. There are some special, small city-state like Andorra or Vatican or Monaco, which sometimes they are counted as states, sometimes not. So that's why it's a bit difficult to have the exact number. About Europe, Europe, I think it's easily what belongs to Europe and what does not belong to Europe. It's clear, I would say, in the west, where's the Atlantic, in the north, there's the North Pole. In the south, it's already a little bit more difficult because the Mediterranean Sea is usually, how to say, does it belong to Europe or to Africa or the Middle East? Sometimes not so clear. We can say most islands here in the Mediterranean Sea are counted as European. Malta, Cyprus, and Crete, and Corsica, and so on, yeah? But the most difficult question is, where's the eastern end of Europe? Where does Europe end in the east? You see, for example, this country here is Russia. Russia clearly is a European country by its culture, history, language, and 70% of the people of Russia live, so to say, in the western part here, close to Europe. The capital is here, the big cities, Moscow, St. Petersburg. But as you know, Russia also goes to the Pacific. It's a Pacific country. Vladivostok is near Korea. Russia has a big border with China. So is Russia a European country? I would say it's on both continents. It's a European part and an Asian part. Also here, a country like Turkey, it's heavily disputed. Is Turkey a European country or not? We can say, yeah, it has European roots, has a lot of history and connection with Europe. But on the other hand, it also belongs to the Middle East and to the Arab world. And yeah, but Turkey is still, let's say, for example, they have applied for EU membership. They're playing in, for example, in football, they're playing in the European football competitions and the European championships and so on. But on the other hand, they're also organizing conference on Asia. So that's a bit the question, still not yet disputed where Europe ends in the east. And here are the Caucasus, maybe at the very eastern part, these countries here, Armenia and Azerbaijan, where there's at the moment a big conflict. Here we see Kazakhstan, they also apply to become Europe, and Georgia and all these countries there in the Caucasus, also quite difficult if they are European. That already starts with the difficulties. What is Europe? Okay, now we come to the European Union. That's not all countries in Europe are member of the European Union. There are some countries which are not. 20 at the moment, 27 countries are member of the European Union, plus one that has left. This one in red here, United Kingdom, Great Britain, if you want, with Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. United Kingdom here. It has left the European Union officially this year. 27 member states, which you see here in blue color, are members. Mostly you see is from the western and southern part, but in the northern part, you see Iceland and Norway are not members of the European Union, as well as here in the, let's say this is former Yugoslavia. Maybe you heard about the conflicts in the 1990s. Not so easy. Some of them have joined the European Union, Croatia and Slovenia as former member states of Yugoslavia, but others are in a difficult transition process, Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia, and many others. They are still not members. And here we have these countries which are in the past have been under Soviet or under Russian influence, Belarus and Ukraine, which are, how to say, still disputed. Maybe I can tell you a bit more. These are current conflicts in Belarus with the election of Lukashenko, or in the Ukraine with, the war between Russia and Ukraine in these eastern parts in Donbass. I can explain later if you want. Also, we should look on this very small island. You see my cursor here on the southeast here. This is Cyprus. You see it's very close to Lebanon and Israel and so on, Middle East, but this is member state of the European Union. And it's a divided island. The northern part belongs to Turkey since 1976, and the southern is member of the European Union. Also quite complicated in several issues. Okay, so just to give you an overview of some of the geographical issues. Another thing is the Eurozone. Not all the countries of the European Union have adopted the euro as their currency, but you see the blue ones, again, they are member of the Eurozone. Yeah. You see here, Finland, yes, but Sweden, no. The Baltic countries, yes, but Poland and Czech Republic, no. The Balkan, of course, not, but the Greece, yes. That's I will talk later a bit. And of course, UK, not, yeah. So, and euro is also unofficial currency in some of these Balkan states, but not officially. Okay, now it's come to the population of Europe. What is the biggest country in Europe? This is, I took from Wikipedia, I have to admit, but I think it mentions Russia as the biggest European country. We can say, yes, it has the most Of course, the area is the biggest country of the world, but it's also the population, which is nearly 150 million, quite big. Okay, if you take out Russia and also number 3, Turkey, you see, Turkey is 80 million, quite big country, but they are not member of the European Union, both number 1 and number 3. Among those countries which are member of the European Union and 100% European is Germany, the biggest country with more than 80 million people, but not in the size of the area. There, France is bigger and Spain. Where's Spain? Is also bigger. Europe has a lot of countries which are quite small. I did not mention them, but in, for example, countries like Belgium, 11 million, Greece, 10 million, Romania, 16 million, but Denmark, 7 million, Switzerland, 7 million, and so on. There are a lot of countries with 5, 6, 7 million people. For Asian standards, this is very small. In Indonesia, many provinces have more than 5 million people, yeah? But in Europe, these are countries very often with a long tradition, history, strong belief in their identity and so on, yeah? That makes Europe a bit difficult, yeah? Meaning very many cultures and people on a very small space, not so different. Okay, let's say a few words about languages. Many people in Indonesia do not know that not everybody in Europe speak English, yeah? Because I think Europe is very diverse in languages, yeah? And only a very few, small proportion of the Europeans speaks English as a mother tongue. These are the people on this island here, on United Kingdom, and the people in Ireland here on this island, which have been for centuries part of UK. So, but the rest of Europe has their own languages, yeah? So nearly every small people with 5 million people have their own language. Here on this map, you see some big language families because they are related to each other. We have one that is these here when, yeah, let's say red and purple colors. These are the Germanic languages, as they are called, the Northern European languages, which are one family. And you see that English and German are related to each other, and as well as the Scandinavian countries. They are one language family. The other language family is the Southern Europeans, which are here in these blue colors, Spain, French, Italian, also Romanian. These are from the Romans, from Old Latin coming. They speaking a language similar. It's easier for them to understand each other. And the third big group are the Slavic languages originating from Eastern Europe, Russia, like Polish, Czech, and also most of the language of Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia. They are Slavic languages, which have a different language family. Plus, there are hundreds of small languages which are, how to say, very special, like Finnish or Basque language, or if you have here Hungarian and so on. These have no relation at all with the other languages. These are unique. Yeah? Okay, so just to give an overview here about the languages. Religions of Europe. Most people think Europe is very homogeneous in religion. It's not. Yeah, they also. Okay, nowadays there are no more big wars on religion, but in the past, religion has been a cause of many, brutal wars among each other, particularly between Catholics and Protestants. But now we can make it a bit simple. In the southern part of Europe, plus Poland, there are Catholics, yeah, which are here in the yellow color. The blue color are the Protestant countries. This is northern Germany, England, Scandinavia, and so on. They are mostly Protestant. There is a majority here in the eastern part of Europe. They are mostly Orthodox Christians. Also, Islam is represented as a majority religion in Turkey, but also in some parts of former Yugoslavia, particularly Bosnia-Herzegovina, yeah, and some other parts here in Russia and in the Caucasus. Yeah. Also, of course, all religions are present everywhere. Islam, for example, is 5 to 8% in France and also in Germany of the population are Muslim. Yeah, it's not that it's mixed everywhere, but this is only the majority religion. Okay, now I can talk about this for ages, but I want just give a short overview about history. Europe was Europe was divided between 1945 and 1989 in the Cold War, between a bloc controlled by, let's say, by the Americans and the other one by the Soviet Union, which have you here. These countries had to adopt a communist system, and the other could choose become democracy and a capitalist system. my home country, Germany, was divided into two parts, one Western state, democracy, and an Eastern state, communist. This is over now. The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 ended the confrontation between East and West, but until now, there are still some remnants of this period of time, which you can also see in the economic differences in Europe. In general, the Western countries, which are longer economy, let's say capitalist or market economies, they are more well-developed than the Eastern European countries, which have been long time under communist rule, under Soviet control, if you want. So here we have the GDP per capita in purchasing powers in 2019, and the colors in the dark green are the most economically well-developed countries of Europe. You see, these are the Scandinavians and Central Europe, including Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, and just to name a few. And here we are, the other countries are also quite developed. We see also in lighter green the countries which have more problems. This include also Portugal, Greece, and so on, and the Eastern European countries. I think also one statistics which you also need to know, I think that is more general known to the public, is the median, let's say the median wealth of citizens per adult. I think this is from Credit Suisse. This includes how much does every person own, and the median, as you know, is 50% of the population. Where is the one half and where's the other half? And here you see, this includes also property. For example, if you have house and land and so on. And here you see, for example, that Germany is not so rich per adult. 50% of the people have less than 35,000 euro per year. And that's compared to other countries like France and UK or Scandinavia, not very much, meaning the gap between rich and poor is, or personal wealth is not as high in Germany as many people think. But of course, you can see also the typical divide between East and West. The personal wealth in Eastern Europe is generally less than it is in Western Europe. Yeah. And also there's a sort of north-south, but I will explain later on that. Political system, very short only, democracy. This is the Freedom House Index, which measures political rights and civil liberties worldwide. The green ones are that were more political rights and civil liberties, and the yellow ones are somewhat mixed, and the purple one are authoritarian or dictatorships, if you want. Yeah. So you see here, for example, Indonesia is yellow, meaning that it's mixed. Yeah, it's somewhat democratic, but not completely. Whereas the green countries are mostly democratic. And you see that Europe is in this world a rather democratic continent, where the political system is democratic. And if we go a bit more into detail, sorry, I could not find a better map. You see that particularly Western Europe and Northern Europe, they are very green. Whereas in the Eastern European parts, there are also some, let's say, mixed democracies like Indonesia. Here they counted Hungary and the Ukraine, but also the former Yugoslavian countries, Serbia, and so on. But you see around Europe, there are a lot of dictatorships, starting with Russia, Belarus, Turkey, here all these Middle East countries, plus Northern Africa, except this is Morocco and Tunisia. Yeah, okay, but all the rest surrounded, Europe is surrounded by authoritarian regimes. We should see this when we talk later about the refugee crisis. Yeah, okay, good. So now I already talked through. Okay, so I'm still in time, I hope. So the idea of united Europe, of course, this is a new idea. Yeah? It's not that for centuries people thought of this idea. Nationalism was developed as a European ideology. Many people still believe in nationalism, that my country, my race is the best. And but Europe had to go through two world wars, particularly the First World War and the Second World War took place in Europe. Of course, the Second World War also in Asia Pacific also, but in Europe was, sorry to say it, but I think it was the main battlefield of the two world wars. And killed about more than 50 million people were killed in Europe alone. And after that horrible experience, many leaders of Europe after the Second World War thought it's good to end this eternal fighting among the European states, and that they build something together, and that they see there are cultural heritages which are common, that there are that the countries can work together and start a common project based on economics, we must say. The first, Europe did not start as a political union, but as an economic community. So the idea was working together in economic field creates peace and stability in Europe. And that was happening. This also means reduction of nationalism, of negative nationalism. My country is the best, the other ones are our enemies. Of course, you have to reduce this and say our neighbor, we work together with them peacefully, we trade goods, so they are our friends. And so Europe is built on cooperation and peace, the modern united Europe or the European Union. Okay, now what is the European Union? It's an economic and political union of 27 European countries. As I said, it's really unique worldwide because all member states, they give some of their national sovereignty to the supranational level, to the EU level, meaning a country like Germany gives authority to Brussels to say, okay, you make a decision and we will follow. You are the leader, you are above us. Meaning I think in Southeast Asia, it's not imaginable, but in Europe, it's reality that national countries say to a supranational organization, please decide for us. So some of the national sovereignty has been given to Brussels, particularly in economic matters. So, okay, I have always this slide, what is different to EU, to ASEAN, also ASEAN as a regional organization. But I think I would not say the European Union is better. That's also some people say this, but I would not. I just say they are different. And we need to know what are the differences between the European Union and ASEAN. That's why I formulated this sentence. The EU is highly formal, legalistic, institutionalized, supranational. So whereas ASEAN is informal, legally non-binding, very little institutionalized and intergovernmental. Do you understand? Meaning it's everything in Europe is made by law. You can go to a court and claim everything. Whereas ASEAN, the leaders meet and they talk a little bit. There's no legal right for you to claim what is talked among the ASEAN leaders. You cannot go to a court because it's legally non-binding what is decided in ASEAN. This is not the case in Europe, which produces, hundreds of thousands of regulations and laws per year in Brussels, more than the nation states. Much more regulations are present in Brussels than in the member states. Also, we have to say, for example, in Germany, around 50% of all German laws are made in Brussels. And the German parliament just say, hello, yes, well, approve, yeah. Okay, so also, as I said, supranational, institutionalized, there are 50,000 people working for the European Union, maybe more. In an ASEAN headquarters here in Jakarta, it's how many? 300 or so, yeah. And there are no independent institutions of ASEAN. Everything is decided among the member states. That's why ASEAN is intergovernmental. Whereas the European Union has the European Commission and the European Court of Justice, which are supranational. They're above the member state level. Okay. So that's what I already said. It's not a super state, yeah, meaning it's not like the United States of America, meaning there is one central government in Washington and there are a lot of member states. No, not like this. It's a more balance between center in Brussels and big autonomy still for the member states, particularly in non-economic matters such as domestic policy and foreign relations and so on. Okay. What are European Union based on shared values? It's also very different to ASEAN. ASEAN, you have many different values. In Vietnam, believe in communism. In Myanmar, the military is very strong. In Brunei, the Sultan is very strong. Indonesia, we have a democracy. But in Europe, everybody needs to be more uniform. Yeah, meaning they have shared values. There is liberty, democracy, respect for human rights, rule of law, and social market economy. And also, to mention, the European Union is also received the Nobel Peace Prize for bringing peace to Europe, yeah, among its member states. Okay, why the European Union? Why do countries go to the European Union? Why do they want to join the European Union? Because, yeah, political, stable, and peaceful. It guarantees peace. That's what I mean with the Nobel Peace Prize. It also enhances the power of Europe in international affairs. If Europe negotiating with China, for example, about a free trade agreement, then Europe is a big market, big power. Imagine if Slovenia or with 5 million people or Denmark, 7 million people would negotiate with China. What is the negotiation position? Of course, Europe is united much stronger if they can act with one voice than if they are divided. So that's every country becomes more powerful in international relations. Also, economic growth and prosperity. European Union is a great example how access to the common market has benefited each country. If you see Spain, who entered in 1980, or Greece, who entered in 1985, within 20 years, they became rich and prosperous, we can say, compared to the previous standards. Also, the Eastern European countries, they are, I don't know, ways much more prosperous than they were when they entered the European Union. And also, as I said, the European values are important part of European. Okay, these are all members who enter European Union have to follow these values, we can say this. And also European Union has a sort of welfare state. Maybe this is also not well known. It's not about 1/3 of the EU budget, meaning about, 30, that's in between 2014 and 2020, it was 350 billion euro was transferred from the more developed countries to the poorer countries of Europe. Here you see the regional funds, the social funds, the cohesion funds, and in red color, we can see the less developed regions. Here it's in Eastern Europe mostly, but also Portugal and Greece, yeah. And here the transition countries in somewhat orange, like Eastern Germany, or here some parts of France, and the more developed countries in light. You see, the more developed regions, they did not get any subsidies or funds, but from the poorer countries, they get a lot of money from the richer countries. That's also we can say a specific European Union. Of course, as you know, in ASEAN, such things do not exist. Yeah, what we have, that's about some very basic things about European. Maybe we should see as an economic power, 22% of global GDP, meaning, same as US, we can say, still more than China. This might change in the next 10 years, but at the moment, Europe is really one of the dominating powers in economics worldwide. But also very diverse. Okay, economic integration, I cannot go into detail for time reason, but okay, single market, I would like to explain a bit more in detail. I think because this is also very unique. If you are want to become a member of the European Union, you have to accept the European single market. It is that it's treated like a territory, one territory. All the European Union cannot have any trade borders between them, meaning there is free movement of goods, services, people, and capital, meaning you're free to move your goods from one EU country to another. You don't have to fill out papers or license or whatever. You don't have to be stopped at the borders, customs or whatever. That's one big achievement. It's like, of course, there are still in reality member states who are somewhat sovereign, but in terms of economic, it's one big market. This also concerns people, meaning as an EU citizen, you have the right to work and live wherever you want in the European Union, Meaning me as a German citizen, I could go to Estonia or to Greece or to, I don't know, France, say, hello, here I am, I want to work here and I get an apartment. I don't need to ask anybody. I need to register with the officials as everywhere, but I can drive around, I can work around. That's also the freedom of movement. Very big achievement in Europe. This also made Europe prosperous. Also, Schengen agreement, meaning that's another thing, that there are no more direct border controls. If you want to cross the border between Germany and France, for example, you will not be stopped by anyone. You can sit in your car or in a train and you just cross the border and nobody will check your ID, your passport or whatever, And also all of these member states of Schengen, they have one visa for all external visitors. For you, mostly Indonesians, you get one Schengen visa, you can move around in this blue countries as much as you want, because between these countries, there are no more border controls and you get one visa for all these countries, So that's the Schengen agreement. Okay, now let's come to the challenges. Okay, growing EU skepticism, including Brexit, currency crisis, Greece, euro, arrival of more than 12 million refugees and migrants in the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, here, this cartoon, you can see European Union as a boat in troubled waters, and here the British already leaving. But okay, just a cartoon. For example, I start with Euroscepticism. Do I have enough time? Okay, I think I still have enough time. There are different kinds of Euroscepticism. I will differentiate between Northwestern Europe, Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe, which are different. Now we talk about Northwestern Europe, including United Kingdom. They were among the most wealthy countries in the world, but in the recent years, they have, let's say, not developed so well under times of globalization. The population is aging. They are among the eldest countries in the world. Germany is number 2, the second oldest country in the world after Japan. Rising immigration, a lot of people from other countries of the world come to them, and there's nostalgia of the good old times. How was it when we ruled the world? And so on. Yeah, these are typical not only in UK but also, I would say, in France, Germany, and other countries in the northwestern area. And there are some traditional so-called rust belts, yeah, where there's industry, and we see the same phenomenon in the United States, I would say. Yeah, here why Donald Trump won has to do with same reasons: rise of populist nationalism, anti-EU movements. In Europe, it's very much directed against the EU. And one thing was the Brexit in 2016 with this referendum. There was the question, should the United Kingdom remain a member of the European Union? And you know the result, of course, 48.1% said yes, shall remain, and 51.9% said no. So I would say, I cannot go into all details, you can question me after that, but we can see also what kind of people voted for the Brexit. I say they're not economically interested. I would say all the people who had some knowledge about economics would say it's not very good for UK in economic terms to leave the European Union. But you see, for example, what kind of people voted, not the young people, but the elderly. The biggest group of Brexit voters was people above 60. In young people below 24, 73 remain because they want to have more opportunities in the future, travel in Europe, study abroad, work abroad, but for the elderly, it doesn't matter. Also, you can see, okay, these are the political parties, Conservatives, Labour, Lib Dems, and you see that among the major parties, only in the Conservative Party, a small majority supported Brexit. And this nationalist, populist party, nearly everybody supported Brexit. You can see also here by university degrees, those with a university degree, only 20%, how much? 29% supported Brexit. If you see people without any school degree, 66% supported Brexit. So in the end, all the British people have to suffer from the Brexit, from the economic consequences, which will be most probably negative for UK leaving. Because you see, the EU is the biggest trading partner of the European Union, of UK. So 60% of the exports and imports going are between UK and EU, and if this will be taxed, then the economy will be suffering and more people will have less in UK. I can explain more in detail later. I can also, for time reasons, I have 2 slides, negative for the EU, but also it provides new opportunities for the EU because the British were very often blocking reforms, and now the British, as they're out, I think it also meant an end to many of the anti-EU statements in other European countries. Okay, in Eastern Europe, it's a bit different. They don't have nostalgia and all this. They are moving forwards economically, but they're very often controlled by the Soviet Union and the communist system and so on. Then they want to have their freedom, don't want to follow Brussels. And they're also very skeptical towards immigration. That's a big topic because these societies in, let's say, Czech Republic or Poland, they never had the experience of foreigners. They were in the communist times, nobody lived there. And if you want to go to Europe and see white societies, 99% people are still white. Don't go to Western Europe in France or Germany. Go to Eastern Europe, Poland or Czech Republic. Then and that's until today. So they want to have very strong nationalism. That's the idea in Eastern Europe. In Southern European, it's very different. They are actually also have some Euroscepticism, but it's coming more from the left, not from the nationalists, but from the anti-capitalist movement. The Movimento Cinque Stelle in Italia, or Podemos in Spain, or Tsipras in Greece, they are from the left. They want to have more money from the European. They say, we are poor, we need money. And the capitalists in Europe, they shall give us this money. This also has to do with some stereotypes, which I just want to mention here. Stereotypes, I don't say that this is true, but these are stereotypes. Just to understand a bit the European way of thinking between Southern Europeans, Eastern Europeans, and Western Europeans. I found this survey from Pew, from American survey from 2015. You see, what do many European countries think as which country in Europe is most hardworking? You see, the British, the French, the Germans, the Spain, they all think Germany is the most hardworking country in Europe. Only one country not, that's the Greece. They believe the Greece is the hardest working country in Europe. So very different perception between, let's say, Northern European countries and the Greece themselves. Also, the least hardworking, the British, the Germans, and the Spain say, these are the Greece, yeah? So you see, also most corrupt, I think it's interesting. What do the British say, which is most corrupt? Italy. Italy, that's the mafia and what else? Also stereotypes, I would say. But important to understand, whereas the Greece also say that their country is the most corrupt, yeah? So in this case, they admit to this. Least corrupt Germany, I'm not so sure about this, but this is the stereotype, yeah? What people think that Germany is hardworking and not corrupt, yeah? Also arrogant and not arrogant. I think you can see here between French and British, the rivalry. Both think the other one is very arrogant, yeah, the French and the British. But the Germans also, they think they're not arrogant, but many other European countries, they say the Germans are very arrogant, particularly the Southern Europeans, yeah, who want to have more money. And Germany always plays the role of, no, you don't get any money from us. So that's why the Southern Europeans and the Polish, they think that they are arrogant. Okay, so that's just about these stereotypes. It's important a bit to understand how Europe works. And I can go, if you have more questions on this, I can explain a bit more. Okay, so we are now with the currency crisis. As you see, Greece has not a reputation in Northern Europe as working very hard, but making a lot of debts. And now we have the euro. It was introduced in the early 2001, and Greece also joined the European currency with what we know now with a fake, let's say, balance deficit. They have more debts than they admitted in 2001. But nevertheless, they were admitted to the Europe, and we have now Europe, the same currency in 20 countries, but very different economic system. And there is no overall control of the European Union on the fiscal policies of the individual member states. So, for example, Greece and Italy, they use the time that they have now a very stable currency, the euro, with not high inflation rates, to get a lot of money, to borrow money, and to improve their welfare state and make a lot of debt. Greece hosted the Olympic Games in 2004, for example, and so on. They make a prestige project, very good highways, and so on. But they now have a lot of debts. In the past, these countries, they get rid of these debts by inflation. Yeah, that's why in Italy, you have millions of lira. And in Greece, always big amounts of also, yeah. But this is not possible with the euro, get rid of debts with inflation, because the European Central Bank wants to control inflation. That's their task. And that's why they still have these debts. And Greece was nearly bankrupt and had to be bailed out by the other European countries. And that created a lot of frictions, I would say. We can see here the government debt ratio, that's a bit old already. It's we see that Greece is, compared to GDP, the most highly indebted country, followed by Italy, Portugal. Okay, we have Ireland as well, but Ireland, this is a bit old. Ireland has reduced its debts, but the Southern Europeans, they are the highly indebted countries. And actually, they need a different kind of euro, meaning with more inflation and yes, less strict monetary policies. But the Northern European countries, particularly the Germans and the Dutch and the Scandinavians, they supporting less inflation and a more strong euro worldwide, because this benefits also their exports. Okay, so we see the euro, the problem, a challenge for the euro, for the common currency, is that one size fits all monetary policy making trouble in Southern Europe. Yeah. And of course, there are some advantages, particularly that you can pay with the same currency all over Europe. It creates, it's very good, complementary to the European single market, that you pay in the same currency in France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. So it's economically beneficial, but it also creates trouble. Okay, the other thing, it's challenged migrants and refugees. It's more than 2 million people, particularly from the Middle East, coming from Northern Africa. If you see the numbers, the biggest migration country is Syria. Syria is, a civil war ongoing, but also next, Iraq and Afghanistan, they're not very stable. millions or 100,000 of people coming to Europe, claiming to be asylum seekers. But the EU seems to be very unprepared to this. They have the Dublin III regulation, but it was not implemented. And this has led to economic and nationalist egoism. Some countries say we don't want to have any refugees. Others say, yeah, you can come, but this and this. And so this has created not only economic, but also political crisis in Europe. One of the reasons is that asylum seeking is the only chance to migrate. The European Union has not a common, let's say, migration policy, how to legally migrate to Europe. Very difficult. So that's the only chance for many poor people to come to Europe, is coming as asylum seekers. And also, in reality, Dublin regulations say that refugee cannot choose in which country they can apply for asylum, but they must take the one where they arrive, the first one. Mostly this is Greece or Italy, because you see the map of Europe. These are, when they come by boat, they land in these two countries, but that's not where they want to live. Yeah, they want to go to Germany and France and UK, and so that's why it creates a lot of trouble. One thing is, of course, that the European welfare state systems act as a pull factor, meaning that it's attractive, or many people think it's attractive, even if you don't have a job, if you can find anything, that you get welfare state benefits in Europe. And this created a lot of debates among, let's say, people in Europe, and it's one of the sources for the rise of anti-EU movements and right-wing populism, we can say. That's one thing. Okay, the most recent challenge which we have now in the European Union is the COVID-19 pandemic, which is very different to Southeast Asia, where maybe you can see this number of COVID-19 deaths per hemisphere and region. So we have Europe here in the light blue color. There was a high number of infections and deaths in March, April, here. And then it went down until nearly October. It was very down. Everybody thought it's nearly over. And then a sort of second wave started now in October, November. This is very different, for example, to Indonesia, where it's slowly growing. Like, there's not, in Indonesia, we don't have a decline. It's always growing the whole year, but not as much as Europe. Yeah. So Europe had a lockdown here, and then everything went better. But now the second wave is coming with a high speed. And this is very different, for example, with the southern hemisphere. You see, that's meaning Indonesia, most of the country, Java is at least in the southern hemisphere. You see there where there was the highest number of deaths in July, August, September, and now it's slowly going down. Whereas in Europe, it's just starting. Yeah. So, okay. Here I bring you some reactions of the European Union, how they reacted to COVID-19. Here we have some survey thinking about your personal income. Here, what do you about your personal income? Coronavirus has impacted on my personal income is red color. Has no impact is blue color. You see that in some countries of the European Union, particularly in Cyprus, Greece, Spain, Romania, Bulgaria, and so on, in Eastern Europe and Southern Europe, yes, they say big. But in other countries, for example, here in what we have, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, in the more developed countries, not so much. That's what they say, surveys. Now also asked, should the European Union have more competences than the nation state? Yes, most people agree in Europe that 66% in average, that the European Union should have more reaction. But the problem was, in reality, actually the COVID-19 response was, the first 4 or 4 months only national. Every country adopted a different COVID-19 pandemic reaction, and also there were some closing of borders. This created also some trouble and economic difficulties, of course, between the European Union member states, because the single market did not work because of COVID. Many borders have been closed temporarily. Now the borders are mostly open, but it's still a problem of coordination between EU member states. One thing what worked out was the debt package. For the first time in history, European Union took over debts as a, let's say, supranational organization. because the poor countries in Southern Europe, they fear we have to take more debts. They're already highly indebted, as you have heard before. So better if the European Union as a whole makes new debts. Yeah, and that's what they did. 750 billion euro. That's quite a big amount of money, which was new debts. And some for the Southern Europeans, for Italy, Spain, or Greece, they supported this. Whereas here, the countries in red color, particularly those who are more, let's say, developed, a more higher standard of living, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Austria, and the Baltic states plus Finland, they refused this, but in the end there was a majority for the common debt package. And so Europe has this common debts, meaning not the nation state made new debt, but the EU as a whole made that package. Okay, I will talk about this. What do the European citizens now see as their top worry? What makes them fear? Here we have some: immigration, terrorism, economy, public finances, unemployment. We see in the year 2010 to 2014, it was mostly economy, the red one here, yeah? This was number one. But then after 2015, it was immigration, yeah? What I told you, the refugee and migrant issue, which became top, but slowly declining since then. The other one, yeah, terrorism, it's also still on the rise. I did not talk about this here in my presentation, but we have the public finances and unemployment, which are also big issues. Of course, COVID-19 has changed this a bit, and I bring a new survey of July 2020. What is now seen as the biggest threat? Yeah, it's in economic situation. Yeah, it's state public finances, meaning debts. Then only comes immigration, then health. This is new, of course, COVID-19. How about healthcare? And then climate change has moved up in this ranking, whereas terrorism is a bit low. Okay, last week in Vienna. Okay, but you see, now the COVID crisis also changed the economic perceptions of the citizens. What is the most troublesome development in the European Union? Okay, so also here I make this division in what countries see economy as the biggest difficulty. We see also that in countries like Luxembourg, Denmark, Netherlands, very high percentage of people say, I don't see a bad economic situation in my country, whereas here in Italy, only 10% of the people say situation is good, yeah, everything fine, yeah, but whereas 89% say no, economy in Italy is not doing well. Also in Spain, Portugal, Bulgaria, Croatia, also in France, you see, France, 76% say the economy is not doing well. Okay, next year elections in France with Macron running. Let's see, yeah. Okay, so you see that what the economic. Also, okay, I want to compare a bit Europe with the global thing. We are nearly at the end of my presentation. But just this perspective, the global consumer confidence index, this is in COVID times, yeah? You see which countries are most optimistic in the world for the next 10 years that their economy will grow, that they will have a personal better life, that they have everything will go better in terms of economic. You see, the Europeans are relatively skeptical, particularly the Southern Europeans, yeah, Italy, Greece, and so on, Spain, 50, 60. Whereas we look in Southeast Asia here, Indonesia, the Philippines are relatively optimistic. They say, yeah, okay, we have COVID and so on, but we are still optimistic. Most optimistic, I'm wondering here, India, yeah, you see, and also Middle East and to some extent US, yeah. But these are the, yeah, okay. I have also the data from 2018. Much more countries were optimistic, yeah. But this is the data from the COVID from July 2020. Among the, let's say, the COVID crisis, which countries are still optimistic to grow? And I think, yeah, not Japan or the established democracies like the established economies like in Europe, but mostly, yeah, emerging markets, India and Southeast Asia. They are the most optimistic. Okay, what does the let's say European Commission say about economic growth? They fear a big deficit in 2020, in a 7.8% economic deficit for 2020, of course, caused by COVID-19, and not so big recovery in 2021 and 2022. You know, it takes 2 or 3 years for the European Union economies to recover from this big economic crisis. This is, of course, very different in developing countries like Indonesia, 1% prognosis economic deficit for 2020, and next year 7% growth rates and so on. Yeah, but Europe, you see, the perspectives are not so gloomy as we can say here on this prognosis from the European Commission from, let's say, September, October 2020. Okay, I think I come to the conclusion. I nearly talked about 60 minutes. Yeah, that's exactly nearly 60 minutes. So, and then we will have time for question and answer. Yeah, of course, as we see, European Union is not, let's say, island of the happy people. There are also several economic challenges at the same time. Europe also has to deal with them, not only COVID-19, but all the other ones. I mentioned four in my presentation, and I talked a bit in detail. I can give more details in the question and answer session, but nevertheless, we should see also that the European Union is still one of the most advanced economic regions in the world, with also high standard of living and so on. Also human rights, democracy mostly, and politically stable. But I would say the more the European Union can act together, the stronger will be the response to all these challenges. I think Europe, if every state makes its own policy on migration, on currency, on debt crisis and so on, then there will be no adequate answer to all this crisis. As we can see, Europe, if it acts together, can act as a find common solutions, then European Union can recover more easily from all these crises. Okay, I will stop here. Still, we have 1 hour more for question and answers. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye-bye. So.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patrick. It was a good 1 hour. So I guess it's the history, the background of EU. You discuss it in 1 hour, so that's very good. I know there are a lot of things need to be discussed, and you chose some of the important one. Issue like the migration, issue like the COVID-19. So let me give some recap, and then go to the Q&A. Okay, hold on. So you start mentioning that the EU is among one of the most economically successful region worldwide. And then came the problems, the multi-economic crisis, and how EU react and get some kind of reaction. As we know, Europe population probably around 700, 800 million people. Average GDP, some of the richest countries at 50,000 US dollars, and the per capita wealth ranging another 50 to 100,000. And EU is different from ASEAN, as you mentioned. EU is highly formalized. You can see sort of like the government with it. And as we know also that ASEAN is informal, legally non-binding. It's just a get together, some 5 countries, and then expand to 10 countries. And some of the challenges Dr. Patrick mentioned about the growing EU skepticism, that's including Brexit. One of the factors that UK voted out become a Brexit, British exit from EU. It started, Brexit is a negative effect for the EU, but also look in the other side, there is politically impossible for EU to stop the Brexit, British from exit the EU. So it created new opportunities for EU. So because as we know, as Dr. Patrick mentioned also, that the British, because of the long history, they kind of prevent a lot of opportunity for the European Union. Also about the currency crisis, as we know, it started like Greece and some other countries also, but Greece is one of the biggest one, Italy, and it created problems also for EU, for Euro. Greece and Italy, they borrow too much and they kind of hide it, and they have a hard time to repay their debt. And because of their problems, it creates also a bigger problems for European Union, especially with the euro. Another major crisis, like in Germany, pressure them to implement several reform, cut spending, and also create some kind of a friction across Europe among some of the members of EU. And then the last two kind of challenges, Dr. Patrick mentioned about the arrival about 2 million refugees and immigrants. And it creates some of problems, especially for those who want to do something else. And one thing's why a lot of the immigrants want to go to EU, because of the welfare system that become and it became a problem all over European Union with the refugee and migrants. Not only that, we have now problems with in France, and also some of the other problems in other countries also. And the last, you mentioned about the COVID-19 pandemic, where like in April and May is kind of reached the highest, especially like the country like Italy, kind of slow down or lower, but recently start in October, November now, it start to get as high as the April and May, and how it became another problems now, and trying to start the like restart or kind of a reboost for the economy. Mentioning about the Common Debt Package 2020, this is like 750 billion new debt in the response for the COVID-19. Because as we know, if the economy cannot really generate by itself, the government need to step in to basically to help the economy, especially for the country like Italy, Spain, and Greece, so they can get out of a recession without raising their national debt. This is from EU. And some of the top worry you mentioned, Dr. Patrick mentioned, basically 10 years ago, most of the problems would be economics. And then 2015, start the problems, immigration and terrorism. And look in the brighter side, it seems like EU is not kind of so optimistic like some of the Asian countries. They experience in 2020 now is negative 7 to 8% deficit. Projected next year 4% and another 3% in the following years. So I guess in closing, the European Union, Patrick mentioned four major problems, several economic challenges. But as we know, that European Union is still one of the most advanced economic regions in the world. And if EU can act together with plus and minus, especially with these current problems with COVID-19. Never happened in the history of mankind before. Sort of like using trial and error, but together, if they can act together, it makes us stronger to be the response to all challenges. So thank you very much, Dr. Patrick, for about 1 hour and really fast. I know you have to skip some of the things that need to be discussed. Okay, and now let me see you with the. Okay, why don't open for the discussion now for sessions. We go for 3 questions. Let me look here. Okay, the first questions. Should I just read the questions, or have the person who asked the questions ask themselves, or what do you think, MC?
You can have the people ask the questions themselves. I think that would be great.
Okay. So it's kind of nice. So the first question is from Rahmadi. Maybe you can turn on your camera and ask the questions. So first we go to Rahmadi, and then Eko Widodo, and then my colleague Ibu Rosdiana Sijabat. So first question from Rahmadi is about separation. From Eko Widodo is about pandemic and how to handle COVID. And from Ibu Rosdiana, talk about migration and refugee. Okay, first, I would like to ask Rahmadi to maybe turn on your camera and then ask the questions to Dr. Patrick. Silakan Rahmadi. Ada Rahmadinya?
Pak Rahmadi ini.
Pak Rahmadi ya? Yeah.
Head of the department.
Oke. Ya, Pak Rahmadi. Silakan.
Mungkin putus.
Putus. Oke.
Yeah.
Oke. Kita move on to the next one. Yes. Eko Widodo.
Yes, the Dean.
Yes. Okay. Hello, Patrick.
Widodo. Yeah.
Hello, Patrick.
Yeah.
My question is about the COVID-19, and as you know that in the beginning of the pandemic, Italy is hit by the pandemic the worst in Europe in the beginning.
Yes.
And Italy try to find and to find the European Union to help them during the beginning of pandemic, but the European Union didn't react about this. And as you know, Russia and China is going to Italy and help Italy to solve this pandemic problem. So my question is still effective that European Union is try to help the country among the European countries when the situation is emergency like COVID-19 like this. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you, Eko.
Okay. The next questions from Ibu Rosdiana. Ibu Rosdiana ada?
Hi there, Pak Ruli.
Okay, go ahead and ask the questions.
Online.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Patrick. I just wanted to have your opinion on the migration policy to represent most of the European countries. We know that we see the largest population movement, even probably since the Second World War, now happening in most European countries. What do you see the economic burden? I mean, the economic impact of the friendly migration policy from most of the European countries today? And what is your prediction of the economic benefit maybe, and also probably economic cost of the such friendly migration policy? Thank you, Pak Patrick, Pak Ruli.
Oke, satu lagi dari Disney Kinley buat Macron. Disney.
Halo.
Ya.
Harus nyalain kamera Kak? Pak?
Ya, boleh kalau memang bisa dinyalakan.
Oh, belum saya. Boleh.
Ya. Ya.
Bentar. Oke.
Ya.
Thank you for thank you everyone for the chance for me to ask questions. So my question is, how has the issue of Macron's controversial statement affected the EU's economy, especially through the movement of boycotting French products? Thank you.
Boycott. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for my two colleagues from Atma Jaya University, Pak Eko and Ibu Rostiana. Yeah, good to hear. We didn't see this year, unfortunately, because we are all in this online world all the time. Okay, yeah, but thank you for your question also about Disney. So I will answer first the question from Pak Eko, yeah, about Italy, yeah. Italy and the response of the European Union, yeah. As you know, I've been all the time here in Indonesia, so I get the information only via media and via my friends in Europe. Yeah, according to them, I've also some people in Italy. The Europeans were very surprised by this, let's say, COVID pandemic, and the first reaction was very national, meaning only every government made their own national response and did not care about others. I mean, particularly problematic was that there were no masks there were no medical equipment like these, how you call them, for ventilators and so on, yeah. And this was not available in many countries of the European Union. And it took the European Union 3 or 4 months to get together to get a common response with the debt package, yeah. But I think, as Pak Eko said, it was not a very good impression of the European Union in the beginning when the crisis was the most in Italy, when, every day thousands of people died because of COVID. The European Union did not react adequately. And others, I mean, the Chinese, I mean, they donated some of the masks and some of the medical equipment. I think this was more a promotion effect, in my humble opinion. But also with the Italy, with this government, there are others in the world. China with the Belt and Road Initiative and so on, they are looking for diplomatic ways to improve relations with countries who could benefit from China's help. And these are not only, Greece, I don't know, maybe you know that Greece also sold its harbor in Athens to the Chinese and so on, yeah? Meaning China is also looking for its benefits of this crisis to get some more influence in Europe. I think as long as they do it legally and transparently, I think it's okay. They can do this. But for the European Union, I think this was a very bad reaction to not share medical equipment. This has changed in the recent months. For example, people from Italy who were in the hospitals were full in Italy. They were flown with airplanes to Germany and other countries to get treatment in Germany, of course, free of cost. That's the German government invited Italian citizens to come to Germany to pay their costs to be treated in Germany, for example. And I think now the situation is much more cooperative than it was at the beginning of the crisis. I agree with Pak Eko. In the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, European Union really did give no good image. Yeah. Okay. The other question, second question from Rostiana. It's about migration now. 2 questions about migration. Okay, what were the economic burden? What were the economic benefits? I think, let's say, there's a possibility that Europe can benefit from this immigration. Europe is quite aging. It's old society. meaning that the median age is around 45. A lot of pensioners, every third citizen, for example, in Germany is a pensioner, and somebody needs to pay in the security welfare state systems to work. And so that's why in the long run, many Western and Northern European countries need immigrants, also Japan, yeah? Okay, so, but they need immigrants, and this is beneficial in the long run. The costs is, of course, is welfare state. That's why the European Union hopes that a lot of these people coming as refugees and migrants, that they will pay, that they get a job, that they can learn the language, that they can integrate into society and will get a chance on the labor market, that they can work and pay taxes, not receive taxes. That's the gain. As we have some experience in Europe with immigration, I think for the first generation, it's very difficult, meaning those who are already 25, 30 years old, for them, it's very hard to adopt to a new culture, new language, new legal system, new what else. And do not have the skills for, to get a well-paid job, yeah? That's difficult for the first generation. So the hope is on the second generation, the kids, the children of these immigrants who go through the European school systems and to the vocational training, that they get the skills and that they will become, that they contribute to the economy, meaning that they are not welfare state recipients, receivers, let's say, and but that they are paid into the tax system. So that's, at the moment, nobody knows how many percent of them. There are some, let's say in the European, there are some countries which were more easily to integrate and others which were more difficult to integrate. Let's say one gives some positive example, Vietnam. There's some, because of the communist takeover in the 1970s in Vietnam, 100,000 of Vietnamese came to Europe, and these Vietnamese immigrants and the second generation, they are very well integrated. They even in Germany, they became ministers, or they have a higher average income than the average German. So the Vietnamese, for example, very well integrated. It's a bit more difficult for the people from the Middle East, I know, but there is still some chance that they can integrate and that the whole immigration process can become positive for the economies of Europe. Next question is from Disney. Migrants, what was this idea, the French boycott, and what a reaction? I mean, look, I don't think that these boycotts are very useful. First of all, if one politician of one state says something, to boycott a whole economy of 60 million people, which France is among the top 10 world economies, for me, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Second, in this case of Macron, it's not even clear that he insulted a certain religion. I think it's, please read what he said. And I think, okay, can you say a few more words about this? But I think in Indonesia, please also try to read foreign media, not only the Indonesian newspapers and TV presentations, but also try to get a balanced view how Europeans and others think about such action. And I think that these economic boycotts of certain countries because of certain statements of individuals do not make any sense. I hope I could answer your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Okay, we still have a good time. Okay, it's a second batch of questions. Okay, it's from Agung about EU perspective on certain issues, and after that is Winner Yeskiel about terrorism, and the third one is from Brian Vivaldi. He's a great composer of classical music. Migrant and refugee. So first, I would like to give the opportunity for Agung. Agung?
Hello.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chance. I'm wondering what is your perspective, especially on, Hello. What do you think about the EU officials when they see firsthand and how the Russia intervened into the Donbas region and also intervened to the Ukrainian politics, especially when United States during Obama administration they clearly supported the Poroshenko government. So thanks.
Did you get the question, Patrick? Okay. Okay, next is winner Yeskia.
Thank you for the chance. My question is, we know by now the recent cases of terrorism in France and Vienna. Do you think the EU will tighten their immigrants policy?
So it's about the immigrant policy, about after the terrorism in France and Vienna. And next is from Brian Vivaldi.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say thank you for the chances to ask question. So from Mr. Patrick's explanation, migrant and refugees is one of the challenges the EU is currently facing. Since the EU have a free labor mobility policy, do you think that this policy is beneficial to EU in the aspect of economics? And how would EU members remain to stay as a member when there are some rising cynicism to immigrants from the conservative sides of the people in some EU countries? Thank you.
Sorry, the last question. May I ask, the last question was the reaction of EU member states on attacks on immigrants, or what? What was the last?
Let me repeat. So the last question is, and how would EU members remain to stay as the European Union members when there are also some rising cynicism from the people in some EU countries, especially in conservative sides of the people?
Okay, understood.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, I got 3 more questions. Yeah, thank you. All very interesting about this topic of migration a lot. But the first one was more general international relations about Russia, let's say world politics. Yeah. Okay. It's good that you follow these developments in the eastern fringes of Europe. This has to do with the, let's say, Russia is currently has the relations between the EU and Russia are very, how does we can say, confrontative, yeah? Because there were 2 things happening in the eastern part of Europe, which the European Union did not support. First was the takeover of Crimea Peninsula from the Ukraine by the Russia, yeah? Because they took it, it was in 2015, I think, yeah? And the other one, of course, it's the eastern part of the Ukraine. In the Ukraine, let's say, for the from the Russian perspective, on Putin's perspective, it's that Ukraine still belongs to the, let's say, part of the big Soviet zone of influence, not Soviet, Russian zone of influence. You know, Kiev is, the languages are very similar, Ukraine and Russian, the cultural traditions. Kiev is the center of Russian Orthodox religion and so on. There are many connections historically between Ukraine and Russia. And of course, it's maybe we can say culturally, particularly the eastern part of Ukraine is more close to Russia than to the Western Europe, we can say. Yeah, but so after the end of the, let's say, after the end of the Soviet Union, Ukraine became an independent country, and then their struggle starts, in which who gets more influence, let's say the Western European and together with the Americans, or the Eastern with the Russians. And this goes there and there, but I think it's very obvious that the Russian government supports separatists in Eastern Ukraine. For example, there was this shutdown of the Malaysian Airlines flight by Russian supported East Ukrainian troops. And so this creates a lot of trouble, and the EU has trade sanctions against Russia. So the relations between EU and Russia are not very well. Okay, my personal stance on this is that I think, whereas Donald Trump, Donald Trump didn't take it too seriously. Donald Trump was working well. He went to Putin, he met with Putin. He could do very well. He did not support the Ukraine as much as the European, the self-determination right of the Ukraine as much as the Europeans did. Okay, so my personal opinion is that I think Europe needs to be somewhat strict on Russia, and that because let the people of the Ukraine decide, and they voted for a president who is clearly pro-Western. And so I think the Europeans should talk tough with Russia and continue dialogue to find some solution and to stop the war. I mean, I'm promoting peace in Ukraine, but I think also that not the way of just following what the Russians tell or their interpretation of the situation will help the people in the Ukraine. Okay, that's my comment on that. So next question was, what did I note here? Immigration policy. Austria terrorism. Oh, yeah. Okay, last week there was this terror attack in Vienna, and there were several more. I mean, in Paris and what else? Okay, let me say one thing first. What is a bit in contrast to what the president of Indonesia said, yeah? I think if there are terror attacks, of course, no religion is to blame, yeah? That's not, but the thing is that these terror attacks were caused by religiously motivated terrorists, yeah? Meaning they had their motivation was, so to say, religion. That is a problem. And I think also the religion itself should deal with these kind of people who claim that they represent a religion. I mean, that's the religious dimension in this conflict. Okay, but I don't believe that this will be the let's say, will have some direct effect on migration policies in Europe. First of all, migration policies are not a matter of the European level. They are not decided in Brussels. They're up to the individual member states. These are a policy area which is up to the member states. So each country can make their immigration rules as they want. And Austria is already quite strict, and the others, I don't think that there will be a direct reaction. It's already quite strict, and I don't think that there will be more sanctions on immigration or whatever. The other one, it's also related to the third question. This was from, what was the name? Sorry.
Brian Vivaldi.
Brian Vivaldi. Okay, thank you. The reactions, yeah. Okay, now, of course, here in Indonesia, a lot of people ask me why there is Islamophobia, why the Europeans do not, and so on. I think that's too general. I mean, some media portray this here in Indonesia, but of course, there are still in Europe a lot of people who are supportive of immigration, who are voting for parties who are supporting immigration. If you have some surveys, I could show you, I think it's a majority in nearly all countries except Eastern Europe supporting in general migration and have positive attitude towards immigrants. Of course, there are also, let's say, as in many societies, some people who are openly racist or discriminative towards certain religions or people. But this is, well, how to say, not official EU policy. These are, I think, except Eastern Europe, no Western European countries openly against immigration, and so far not as much as Donald Trump, I would say. Yeah. So meaning, I think there's also, of course, you cannot, how to say it, there's legal equality. Meaning, if somebody makes, let's say, discriminative actions or jokes or whatever, he can be punished by all the legal systems of the country. This is happening. You cannot just treat immigrants differently than local citizens. There are basic rights, and they have access to welfare state and also human dignity and so on. Meaning, yeah, okay. Unfortunately, I still don't believe it. Another thing, I think that now the question I remember was with the free movement of labor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that free movement of labor is very beneficial for European economic development. Imagine, in one country there is a boom, and they need new labor, and then theoretically people from other countries where there's a lot of unemployment people, they can go there and take the jobs. Yeah, from Greece, from Italy, where there's high unemployment, they can move to these areas where there are jobs, yeah, available, and the other way around. So I think this is it's beneficial. And I don't see how this is connected with immigration directly. Immigration, first of all, these asylum seekers, they apply in one country, one member state. This is a national affair, not about the European Union. They have to follow the orders of the receiving state, and they cannot move wherever they want. That's the EU regulations. They are the case. They have to stay in the country where the asylum process is running. If they have to become a full, let's say, accepted as a permanent citizen of the EU, a permanent resident, of course, they can move to other countries. That they have the same rights as other EU citizens. So I think the first one, this is not a big problem for the European Union, the connection between immigration and the free movement of people.
Okay, we still have plenty of time. I think it's 5 more questions. So I will going to divide into 2 sessions. And the first from Christian Leonard, he will ask questions about the CPO policy. And then second is from Mudita. She is asking about the continuity of EU in the future. There was a comment from Anastasia Vanessa. It's already answered by Patrick about stricter rules integration of immigrants. And the third one about economics from Ismu. Okay, first, Christian Leonard. Christian? Okay, let's continue. Next to Mudita. Yeah, go ahead. Mudita. Not yet. Okay. And then how about? Okay. Next is from Ismu about economics.
Oh, hello everyone. Hello, Mr. Patrick. How are you? Long time no see.
Yeah, long time no see. Good to see you again here online. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean during my work time, so I have free time for a while. So about my question is about the universal basic income. We know as a pandemic, industry are shutting down and increasing employment, decreasing, and so does decreasing people purchase power. I've seen in YouTube on Wall Street Journal the universal basic income implementing in South Korea, a province like Daejeon or something. I forgot about the province, and it's worked. Uh, how how do you think about the universal basic income implementing in European Union? So because like free money for the citizen and yeah, so on. So that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Christian just send a chat to me. It's basically unable.
Pak.
Oh, okay. Sudah bisa? Oke, silakan bertanya.
Okay. Firstly, I want to say thank you for the chance, and I want to ask about something that is happening this year about the dispute against Indonesia between Indonesia and the European Union about the palm oil, like that. So like recently this year, we all know that EU has been implementing this new policy that like ban the use of palm oil in the European Union, especially on biodiesel, and this affects a lot of Indonesian, because Indonesia is like the largest importer for palm oil in the world, like 80% or so with Malaysia. And my question is, how is this controversial policy affects the EU? Because palm oil is a very important ingredient in terms of food in manufacturing and other for biodiesel especially. So how is this policy affects the EU, especially on the side of the economy? Thank you.
Okay. The third question from Mudita, she's unable to turn on because of noisy background. So let me ask on behalf of her. Okay, thank you for your explanation, Mr. Patrick. as you have explained, the EU currently faces many challenges like COVID-19 situation, also high immigration rates. So as EU, as a body that holds such heavy tasks, foster economic growth and prosperity, enhancing their power, the questions, what are your prediction or thoughts on the continuity of the EU in the future, especially after the Brexit and so on? Okay, thank you. That's the 3 questions.
Okay, thank you very much. 3 very different questions. Okay, but I can tell you what I think about them, no problem. Yeah, hello, Mas Ismu. Yeah, good to see you again. We met at Jaya University a few years ago. Hope you're doing well. Now, your question was about the universal basic income. Yeah, that's, I think, a question which is very much debated in Europe, but of course not here in Southeast Asia, which is also a good sign that you read maybe about what's happening in other parts of the world, not only here in the region. Maybe let me explain it a bit. What's the idea behind a universal basic income? The idea is that most European, or I think every European country has a sort of welfare state, meaning where you get from different sources, different kind of benefits. Yeah, if you're unemployed, you get some money for unemployment. If you have difficulties to find an apartment, you can get from a different kind of institution some money, help for this. In your health insurance, you get some money support for this, and so on. Meaning there's a complex bureaucracy on welfare state, yeah, which is also sometimes for poor people not so easy to get access to, yeah, or sometimes they have to bring a lot of documents and blah blah blah. So difficult. The idea is to simplify this by giving people who are in need, universal, meaning people giving every citizen a flat rate, meaning a certain amount of money paid by the taxpayer, by the state, so that this person can have some basic income. Yeah, meaning in Indonesia, maybe would say everybody gets 5 million from the government. Yeah, so meaning that is enough for a living, but not enough for living in a very good standard. Yeah, so my personal opinion on that, let's say like this: there are some very attractive things about it. That meaning it's sort of cuts red tape and makes it easier, and it's also, let's say, a lot of people can have this universal income plus some work. If, for example, if you take a job which is not well paid, let's say another 5 million rupiah, yeah, maybe they can have already 10 million if they add together, yeah, meaning that's make it more attractive than in the current system where, for example, if you get a job, you don't get any benefits anymore, yeah. So it's for many people not so attractive to take over a new job because it's the 5 million you get anyway, yeah. So from the welfare state, so why take another job for 5 million extra income? So I think there are some advantages, but I see also disadvantages. And this is because it's like giving everybody a certain amount of money is not very target oriented. I would reduce it to people who are really in need, and also, or maybe make it obligatory for those who have enough to donate this back to the state. Meaning that they are that there is more target group orientation, and on the other hand, I think also some people with economic difficulties might be also not go along well with this direct income without any support and so on. I mean, for example, if you in Europe, in Germany or in France, if you don't have an apartment, the state will provide you with an apartment and this will pay for this, yeah? Meaning, so, but on the other hand, if you just get 10 millions or a certain amount, then you have to rent an apartment by yourself. Some people will still have difficulties to find an apartment which they have to pay by themselves. So I don't see the, let's say I'm still in the, see the advantages and disadvantages of universal basic income. And I think my opinion, yes, there is a reform of the welfare state system would be good, but it should be a bit more modified to be more effective and more efficient. That's my opinion on universal basic income. Okay, that was the first question. The next question from Christian Leonard. Yeah, I was already waiting for this question. Yeah, since let's say 2020, I'm in Indonesia and Malaysia. Since 5 or 6 years, I'm here in this region. And every time I talk about the European, this question comes. I'm wondering why it came not earlier, the question about the palm oil, yeah? This is very specific, Indonesia, Malaysia. In these two countries, yeah, it's a highly emotional topic. It's even the Prime Minister Mahathir and President Jokowi wrote letters to the European Union and ministers complaining about the European Union. In Europe, nobody cares about this issue. It's if you ask somebody in Europe about, nobody knows about palm oil and so on. But first, let me say one thing clear. If we talk about this issue, we need to stay to the facts, yeah, please. So Indonesia, Malaysia, before you say there is a ban of the European Union on palm oil, I can say, no, there is no ban. Yeah. What you are discussing about is of the reduction of the percentage of palm oil in biofuel in the next 10 years until 2030. Yeah. So that we talk about this issue. There's an EU regulation on the percentage of reduction of the percentage of palm oil in biofuel over the next 10 years. Yes, I know. This means less exports of Indonesia and Malaysia to the European Union because of this percentage. But if you see the numbers, I have a presentation on this issue. I can show you the numbers that these reductions of reduced exports to the European Union because of this EU regulation will not affect to a great extent the exports of Indonesia and Malaysia in palm oil. You see, for example, that palm oil exports to India have increased in the last 2 or 3 years more than 10%. This weighs out much more than the reduction of maybe 1 or 2%, which will the exports to the European Union will reduce. And of course, in European Union has no idea to punish or to, let's say, what else, to be negative to Indonesia, Malaysia. They do it for environmental reasons. That's the argumentation of the European Union. You can believe it or not, but that's what the European Union believe. I don't, okay, we can start a debate. Is this true or not? I had a lot of debates in this in the past. A lot of Malaysian, Indonesian colleagues, they say, yes, no palm oil is very good for environment and no forests are cut down. Okay, we can discuss about, but it's a different of opinion. EU has a different opinion on that issue. And so there will be some export reductions because of this, but this is happening all the time. The EU makes a lot of regulations on certain countries, on product standards, on this and that. And it's a long-term discussion and will affect to some extent the palm oil exports in Indonesia, but not to such a big extent that all these, I think, uproar or these very heavy reactions from Indonesia or Malaysia are justified. That is my opinion on that issue. Thank you. But I understand the Indonesian and Malaysian position. Of course, I understand it. Yeah. So that's, yeah. Here. Okay. Second point. Then the next question, third question was on, that was the Ibu Dita, yeah, the big questions about the future of European Union and so on. Okay, let's say in terms of economics first, yeah. As we can see in many long-term developments, the European Union will not grow much in the next 50, 30, 40 years. They have already reached a high level of development. There will be not 5 or 6% growth rate. It's not possible. Same also holds true for Singapore. Yeah, Singapore has no growth rates anymore from 5 to 6%. It's about 1, 2%. Europe also, if there's no, it will grow it, but it's so that will be maybe that the gap between Europe and Southeast Asia will get smaller because ASEAN has more higher growth rates and East Asia, and so that the living standards in Europe and Southeast Asia will become, in the long run, more similar. Then I think that's a good development, that the gaps which have been in the past very high, I mean, let's say 30 years ago, the average European was 10 times as rich as a Southeast Asian. At the moment, he's 5 times. And maybe in 20 years, he's only double as rich. Yeah. So, and maybe in 100 years, they are the same level of income. Yeah. So it's the long-term development. Yeah. In terms of political unity, I think, yeah, how to say? I think from economic rational perspective, it's very useful for all countries to stay in the European Union, also for the British. I mean, if you see all the British economists or all the British people who had some ideas about economy, they voted to remain in the European Union. Okay, yeah, but the other hand are people like Donald Trump who populism, nationalism, these are not the recipes for the future of the world. In a world of globalization, to close the borders and to stop working together, to concentrate on domestic production is very counterproductive. I mean, you can, if you have any idea about economics, please read some books and you will find no serious economic expert who will tell you that this strategy of dissolving a common market and stopping working together in economic terms, yeah. So I think it doesn't make sense to keep prosperity and peace and stability in Europe. Okay, I'm also saying not that the European Union must stay the same as it is right now. It could be reformed, it could be made more democratic, it could be more people-centered, it could be more social if you want. I'm open for these reforms, and I think also it's necessary to gain some more confidence and support by the citizen by reforming the European Union, but it's not as easy as many people say, because there are 27 member states and all of them have their specific agenda, and all of them have 27 different governments, some more leftist, some more right, some more, I don't know, liberal, some more nationalist. So this bring together all this, and yeah, it's not so easy, but I think, yeah, of course, there will be some reforms, and but overall, I think European Union will not collapse in the next 20, 30 years. Thank you.
Oke, Mbak Krista, kita masih ada punya waktu. Patrick, do we still have time?
Still 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes, okay. I guess the last batch of questions. First, I just want to read the question from Pak Rahmadi. Okay, hold on. Okay, Pak Rahmadi. Okay, Pak Rahmadi asked a question about the separation. Some countries in Europe want to separate with their main countries, like Scotland want to separate from UK, Catalonia from Spain, Crimea from Ukraine. So how EU face these challenges? This phenomena accepted when at the previous time EU support Balkanization within Yugoslavia? Okay, that's the question from Pak Rahmadi, and I can only have 2 more questions. So based on the ranking, one is from Bernardus Charlie Elian Surya Dharma. He will ask questions about holding back Turkey from membership. No. Is it? Yeah. Okay. And another question from John William, alternative system, because of whether it's poor or rich country. And so I have the last one is from Stefan about the financial institution. So please, Bernardus, if you can ask a quick question, so we can have all the questions answered by Patrick by in time.
Okay,
go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patrick, for your presentation. And I just want to ask you about Turkey membership on the EU. Why did EU still holding back the Turkey membership? Is it because Turkey have much refugees or the Muslim community, or anything else? And I want to ask you about what is the consideration from EU itself for adding the membership to the EU? Thank you.
Okay, next, John William, the composer of Star Wars. John William. Okay, move on to the next is Stefan.
Hi, hello. My name is Stefan, and my question is, so if we learn from the second generation currency crisis in Europe, called the Black Wednesday, when countries left the Deutschmark peg, it's quite interesting because actually the European countries actually didn't actually go down. And most economists argue that it's because the EU has credible financial institutions. So my question is, what differs the UK's financial institutions and Latin American financial institutions? Because Latin America, in their first generation currency crisis, went through the same thing with the EU.
Okay, so please go ahead, Patrick.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with the first question. Bernardo's Turkey. Yeah. So Turkey. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Let's say it's not so easy to give an answer on this, yeah, because Turkey is it's a long history. Turkey applied already for European community membership in the 1970s and already started negotiation talks and so on. And Turkey already has some agreements, economic agreements with EU. They have special tariffs and so on there and so on. But they are no EU member, no full EU member. The thing is, it's a bit more difficult for the EU to accept Turkey for several reasons. One is the pure size of the country. Turkey is would be, if they are accepted, the second biggest country, and you know they would have quite some influence on European policy, as the bigger countries always have some more. Other, yeah, good. So you have other countries, for example, France or UK, which are also, no, UK out, okay, France or Spain, which are also some bigger countries, they would fear that their role would be reduced. And so, okay, one thing. The other is that the criteria, the Copenhagen criteria, which are presented, show that that every member country must be a full democracy. And in Turkey, in the last 30 years, there have been some developments which do not support the idea of democracy. There have been several military coups in the past. There have been, let's say, rule of President Erdogan at the moment, which is considered by many as not very democratic, because a lot of powers are concentrated in the president, and there have been some 10,000 people have been arrested as political opposition and so on. Freedom of opinion is not given in Turkey. And so a lot of people criticize that for these political developments. Another criterion is the economic. Is Turkey really, let's say, a market economy? Is there not too much state interference? Are there not other actors also active, like the military and so on? That creates some doubts. Okay, but on the other hand, I would say in principle, my personal opinion, there should be no, let's say, completely, let's say, I would accept Turkey in the economic community, let's say, yeah, I have no problem with this, but I have more problem with the political community, yeah. And I think most people in Turkey are ready to go into an economic community, meaning access to the single market, access of the economic benefits. And my personal opinion, yes, the EU should do this. But the other thing, political, I think there are also, that's not what Turkey wants, actually. We have to be say they don't want to give up sovereignty to, let's say, to Brussels, but they want to have access to the economic benefits. So I think there should be a regulation, my personal opinion, with the EU so that they can benefit from the economic partnership with EU, but not with the political. So that's my thing on that. But it will take time. Of course, I think the Islam issue is not really, how to say, a real. There are not so many. Let's say religion does not play such a big role in the European Union. There are not so many fundamentalist Christians in Europe. They would refuse to work together as Muslims. I think that's not a really big problem. Also, we have to say that in some other countries like Bosnia-Herzegovina, there are also Muslim majorities, and okay, they're also not EU member. But I think these religious questions are not so important in Europe. Okay, then shall I answer to what I have? John William, who is not there.
Sorry, sir, I'm here. Can I ask my question?
Oh yeah, please ask your question. Yeah.
Okay, regarding to the EU, as you were mentioning, the richer countries need to like give an economic aids to the poorer countries. Like Germany needs to give like some money to the EU, and EU needs to help like countries like Greece. I mean, in United States, they also use this, like the richer states needs to like economically help the poorer states. But in United States, they're just one country. Like if New York is helping like Tennessee, let's say, they're still helping the US economy. But in EU, it's not like they're one country. Like German is producing a lot, money to like help the Greece people. I mean, is it effective, or what do you think about this? And is there any alternatives regarding this statement?
Yeah. My opinion, it's completely justified. It's the European form of market economy. If you look around in Europe, most economies are welfare states, yeah, where those with higher income pay higher taxes, which the poorer benefit. I think that's the European idea of market economies. Maybe you've read the book Varieties of Capitalism from what's the name? Okay, famous authors. So the European form of capitalism is generally like this. Of course, there are some more libertarian or more let's say market liberal persons, like in the US, who say, yeah, the welfare state is like a trap where the poor get lazy and the rich, they do not have to pay. But it's I think I grew up in Europe. I've also the kind of social market economy understanding, and I think that's widespread in Europe, that that it's only fair to give more money to the less developed. I mean, there are some success stories. For example, Ireland was always a recipient of money, but now in the last, I think, 10 years or so, it become a net donor. Yeah, so meaning it get a very good development. I think other countries also, it's possible. Also the Central and Eastern European countries, Poland, we will see in 10 or 20 years, maybe will be also in the end will pay more into the let's say common pot than it will get from. I think, and a lot of other things, it's beneficial. You know, a lot of these expenditures are for infrastructure. That meaning that airports and roads and bridges are built, and that benefits the whole economy, but also not only of the member state, but the whole infrastructure of the European Union. If you want to go from let's say eastern part to the western part, and if the road is already well built by the European Union, that's an advantage, yeah, for everybody. Also for those countries who are exporting into these let's say less developed countries within the European Union. I see only benefits from this kind of mechanism. And also it gets support from the less developed countries. I mean, those, let's say, poorer countries, they still see the advantages of being a member of the European Union, yeah, because they are supported by the others, the principle of solidarity. Sorry, no, the third question, I forgot. Stefan, yeah, about the financial institution. I mean, you mean the central bank and monetary policy, or right? I'm not an expert in Latin America. I don't know what kind of crisis you are talking there. Okay, the reaction of the European Central Bank on the ongoing crisis is that it reduced the interest rates to a great extent. Yeah, meaning that it's very easy to get credits from the banks, that you don't have to pay any, yeah, it's nearly sometimes even minus. You get, if you take a credit, you have to pay less than you get. Yeah, it's sometimes even curious in Europe. Yeah, the European Central Bank. Yeah, some people say for those people who want to save money in like with fixed money deposits, that's not worth anymore. You have to spend your money in Europe at the moment. Yeah, a lot of people can criticize this, but on the other hand, what shall the central bank do as a financial institution? Deficit spending, it's, yeah, they make a lot of debts, new debts. That's Keynesianism, okay. It's the deficit spending, yeah. At the moment, I don't see a viable alternative. Austerity, as classical economics would demand, it is not very beneficial. Greece is protested a lot. It created a lot of trouble in countries where austerity or budget cutting measures have been proposed. At the moment, I think, yeah, of course, there's a risk that these debts will be very high, that some countries, like particularly Italy or Greece, will not be available to pay them back. But I think there's no other chance at the moment to restart the economy and to keep them running. I think these Keynesianist financial policies are necessary. I think the only way at the moment. And I agree with the European Central Bank on these policies. I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we already come to the conclusion at the end of our webinar for today. Again, thank you very much, Patrick. It was wonderful, great. Now we can have more information, know more about the EU, and hopefully all the students or everybody's here also have a great time listening to. We are about 2 hours now, so thank you very much. So maybe everybody can give a round of applause to Patrick. It was great, and it is our first time, but not the last time, for sure. So maybe we can meet in some other time, and we have maybe 1 hour, 2 hours discussion more about EU. Okay. So I'm sorry I cannot really several more questions, but we already have we don't have time. It's 12 o'clock, so I now return to the MC, Mbak Krista. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That marks the end of the discussion and Q&A session. Thank you, Dr. Patrick, for your time and effort in delivering the presentation and answering the questions. And also thank you to Mr. Ruli for your time and kindness in moderating this discussion. We also thank you, our participants, for asking the questions and joining us this morning. We hope that you've learned many valuable lessons today, and we hope that this newfound knowledge can bring you many benefits one day. Before we end today's lecture, we will do a quick photo session. Mrs. Bian, the floor is yours. Please lead the photo session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Krista. I will handle it. Please turn on your video and smile for 1 until 2 minutes. Now I will count. First page. 1, 2, 3.
It's not all video on cam. So maybe we have to wait a while. Wait for a while. Cornell, Gracia, where are you? Lunga, Disney, Ismu, and other students.
Yes, students.
Ya, dibuka videonya.
Ya, silakan yang lain. So we have, I think today up to 190 students. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's amazing. Okay, thank you, Patrick, for a very amazing, interesting, and inspirational sharing about European Union. It is very valuable for our students who still learn about international economics and also international business at UPH and Atma Jaya Catholic University. And thank you also for Pak Ruli Mangunsong. Yeah, the world is so small that you also know very well with Ibu Rosiana. Okay, and for you all the students, thank you very much for your active participant, active involvement in this seminar, and don't forget to write your resume on this lecture.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Is it finished or not, Dian?
It's finished.
It's already finished. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and
Thank you, everyone.
see you next time in our next guest lecture.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Very much. You may
Yes,
leave
sir.
now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Patrick. Karuli.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, just for your information, Patrick.
Yeah.
So the students not just live in Jakarta, but they live in all over Indonesia,
Oh,
and some
very good.
also live overseas now because of the pandemic.
Oh.
So they live overseas. They live out of town.
Yeah.
All over Indonesia. I know one is live in East Java, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Sumatra. So this has become a worldwide webinar.
Yeah, great. These are the advantages of the...
very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much, everybody. Terima kasih banyak semua.
So, I'll see you next time.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Sampai jumpa.
Yeah.
Sampai ketemu lagi.
Yeah.
Selamat siang.
Just don't
Selamat
forget
siang.
to fill in your
Thank you,
feedback,
feedback.
formular. Yeah.
Feedback to get your e-certificate.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Krista, for as moderator, not moderator, MC, and also Mbak Dian for organizing this lecture or this guest.
And thank you very much, Pak Agung,
Yeah.
for
Pak
putting
Rudi,
together
terima
everything.
kasih. Pak Agung,
Pak Patrick,
terima kasih juga. Sampai ketemu lagi ya. Sampai kerja sama lagi ya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep in touch. Keep
Stay
in
in touch.
Patrick.
Yeah, let's stay in touch. Yeah, all the
Stay in
best.
touch.
Okay, bye-bye.
Dadah.
Yeah, you become Indonesian now. Dadah.
Nah ya,
So
sudah lama di sini.
From Dutch dah, and then the millennials say deh.
Okay.
So they are millennials.
Okay, boleh deh.
They are millennials. We are colonials.
Yeah, the old generation ya, generasi 2 ya. Oke, Agung, masih ada sesuatu yang
saya kira sudah semuanya. Terima kasih sekali.
Oke, sama-sama.
Ya, saya minta izin untuk